November 2020 council meeting order, please. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mr. Donovan.
Here.
Mr. Bush.
Here.
I'm here. Mr. Major.
Here.
And Mr. Drew.
Here.
Spence. Oh, I forgot you. Sorry, Bob. Mr. Spence.
Here.
Skipped right over you. Sorry about that. Okay, first up we have approval of minutes. We have the October and the November meeting minutes to review. Are there any changes or corrections that need to be made?
I have one.
Okay.
In October, under the additional appropriation for the county highway for the grade all equipment, it was stated, Harry Crosley stated it was $14,000 a week. I believe that was $14,000 a year, just for the record. I don't think there's any rental equipment out there that's $14,000 a week. I think he said they were paying that annually to rent it each year every time they used it. So.
Are there any other corrections? For October or November. Okay. I would entertain a motion to accept those with the corrections made.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Donovan and a second by Mr. Dreer to accept the minutes as corrected for October and November 2020. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Minutes are approved. All right, next we have the treasurer's report. Does anyone have any questions? Linda's here if you need to address any issues. Any questions, concerns? Okay, thank you. Please note that we received the treasurer's report. Next we have the comp time report for November. Any questions or concerns regarding it? Next we have additional appropriations. We have several reporting only this evening. The first reporting only is a transfer of $1,000 from the training and conferences to dues and subscriptions. Any questions? Are they backwards?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we get these?
Okay. That's fine. What's the next one?
The next one I have is,
Poll workers?
yes, for the election.
Okay.
It's $425 being transferred to absentee voter for precinct workers. It's for the payment of the election workers. Any questions? All right, next we have $650 being transferred to trash from the building and structure to pay the trash bill for 2020 from the commissioners.
Okay.
Next reporting only is for pay the outstanding invoices for meals of $2,324.85. It's being transferred from pest control and trash hauling from the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Any questions so far? Next reporting only, we have $5,000 for repairs and maintenance being moved from electricity and natural gas and telephone. This is to cover the funding used for COVID mitigation supplies.
Okay.
Next is Park and Recreation. They're asking to move $554 to the grounds to pay for the outstanding invoices.
Okay.
Now, there are several Parks and Recreation, and they have another one. Just move $200 to grounds and printing other than OS and publication of legal notices. It again is to pay the outstanding invoices.
Okay. Actually, those, all those ones for the Parks Department for improvements have outstanding invoices attached to those improvements, is that right?
These are going to the grounds. There's also some in the back that we have for the improvements. These are for their current outstanding invoices.
Just that one you're speaking about?
The $200 one, or which one? We had $554.
I got, mine might be in a different order, I don't know if you're trying to...
Yeah, I think
If mine's in the order it was printed, and I'm not following this.
554 is out.
Okay.
Brent, what are you doing over there?
Rattling speakers.
There are several parks in.
Yeah. 10 or so, maybe.
The improvements are the ones that say no at the top, or they're not reporting only.
I've also noticed some of these forms that get filled out from different departments are not the same forms. I don't know
No,
if
and
that's-
Amy just mentioned that a little bit ago, that she's tried to streamline the process of the same form,
It's closed.
but occasionally older forms slip in where
Yeah,
they
okay.
not updated the new one. So the last one was the Parks and Recreation for 200, is being transferred to the grounds.
Mhm.
And then there are 1, 2, 3, 5 more reporting only for the parks. And I think 3 that are not reporting only that we have to vote on.
So some of these, like the $200, that's reporting only to the
Mhm.
grounds. Then there's one from the grounds to improvements. For example, the one for $161.76. So are they transferring in series, then requesting additional appropriation? Or, I'm sorry, requesting a transfer of funds once they do that?
Yeah,
Like the one on, there's like one on 11/16, November 16,
uh-huh.
and it's for the 200 you just mentioned, so it's printing and publication to grounds. And then there's one on the 18th, 2 days later, that is not a reporting only, it is a transfer that we
Right.
would approve, and it's from grounds to improvements. So I guess it doesn't matter that they have the reporting only, doesn't really matter.
Reporting only just means that it's staying within the same fund, basically. So they don't have to actually have it approved, because it's staying within the same category of expenses. Is that
Right,
correct,
but we're
Amy?
reading off, I'm just
Right.
saying we're reading
Repeating
off
that
the
right?
same.
Right, okay. It's when they switch categories is that they
I
have to have
understand that,
approved.
yeah.
So these are just basically, hey, we're moving money, and letting you know. But, is anyone here from the park? Becky is? Okay. When we get to the ones where we had to vote on, maybe Becky can clarify why they're moving money to improvements. Okay. The next park one is for $6,454.94. Again, to pay outstanding invoices. And it's from electricity and water to the grounds. The next one is $3,010.16 to official records and gas and oil. It says to pay outstanding invoice signs. Signs are to be posted in each county park with rules and regulations for the parks. That's why they're transferring that one.
Okay.
That's a duplicate. is to pay invoices for improvements to the restrooms being billed at county parks and repaving of the parking. This is the reporting only. It's from buildings to improvements for $2,101.29. And then there's another park reporting only from buildings to improvements. Is that the same one? There's
I was gonna say that.
Okay. The circuit court also has some reporting onlys. They're moving $1,000 from interpreter to office supplies to purchase additional supplies. Another circuit court, depositions, conference and seminars. A total of $3,000 is being moved to postage to purchase postage stamps. And the circuit court also has $675 being moved from dues and subscriptions and printing to the exam by court appointed physician, pay for the physician for competency evaluation. Sheriff's Department has a reporting only for $3,692.91. It was paid out of the wrong account, so they are just moving the account that it was paid from. Alright, the first item we have for approval is for the extension office. It is a transfer of $2,000 from postage to office supplies. It is for the required mailing supplies to reduce contact handling.
Motion to allow.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bush, a second by Mr. Donovan to allow the transfer of $2,000 for extension office. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Transfer is approved.
People online are saying all they can hear is paper shuffling.
It is.
Can you move your mics back, maybe, or maybe, will they go up here? That might help. Remember last week we had the same issue.
Commissioners meeting.
Google for now.
Thank you. Hopefully that helps. All right. We now have a appropriation or a transfer that needs approved for Park and Recreation. It is in the amount of $1,574.11. It is from tire and tubes and other garage to improvements. They would like to transfer all these funds into our improvement line item. These funds are being used for improvements in all county parks, restrooms, parking, playground, equipment, and cameras.
I'll make a motion to allow.
Second.
Are these projects that are gonna be completed this year?
Becky?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion for Mr. Spence, a second for Mr. Bush. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. All right, transfer is approved. All right, the parks have two more additional transfers. The next one is for $161.76. It is from grounds to improvements, and it again is for the improvements being done in the county parks, restrooms, parking, playgrounds, cameras.
Motion to allow.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for Mr. Dreer, a second for Mr. Donovan to allow the transfer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Transfer is approved. And the last Park and Recreation transfer is for $845.50. It is from office supplies and gas and oil. It is going to the improvements account, and again, these are transferred for the improvements we have mentioned before.
Motion to allow.
Thank you. Do I have a second to allow the transfer?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Bush, a second from Mr. Donovan to allow the transfer into improvements. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Transfer is approved. All right, next we have additional appropriations. Our first item is from the Sheriff's Office. It's for $5,500. They are asking for additional overtime money. Mr. Phelps could not be here with us tonight. Does anyone have any questions or concerns that might be addressed otherwise?
Is this for the deputies?
Amy, do you know exactly what, mine just says additional overtime.
I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's dispatchers, but it could be deputies as well, I don't know. They didn't put 105 or 132, so it doesn't say which.
Account.
I bet Mike's texting me now, so if you want to come back to it, I'll see if I can
Okay,
find out.
we will put that on the back. See if we... the next request we have is for an additional $50,000. It is from EOC. The CARES Act has authorized Vermillion County another $50,000 for safety and education. It has to be spent by the end of the year, 12/31/2020. This is mainly for health department projects and is being requested at this time because if they missed the December meeting, they would not be able to use the funding.
I'd like to withdraw that now.
Okay.
We can't meet the deadline in billings tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right, that request is withdrawn. Economic Development is next. It is for $6,500. They are asking for the appropriation for group insurance. There's a change in medical coverage for one of their employees.
Make a motion to approve.
Second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Major, second by Mr. Dreer to allow the additional appropriation for the group insurance for economic development. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Appropriation is approved. Next, we have an additional appropriation for the Recorder's Office. It is for $34.68. This amount should have been encumbered from 2019 for unemployment. So they're needing to take that out of her ID security protection account. Any questions?
Make a motion to allow.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Spence and a second by Mr. Donovan to allow the additional for the Recorder's Office. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The appropriation is approved. All right, next we have another additional appropriation from the Sheriff's Department. It is for $15,000 to cover the current invoices as well as pay current invoices as well as outstanding invoices for meals. It is from the DOC reimbursement account is where he's asking to spend this from.
Did you say we get reimbursed that from DOC or something?
It's the money he gets from DOC that goes into that account.
Okay.
So he's using that money.
Motion to allow. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bush and a second by Mr. Donovan to allow the $15,000 from the DOC reimbursement to the meals. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Appropriation is approved. Alright, our next additional is from the allocation fund. They are wanting to appropriate to the bond project payments. This is in regards to the TIF in the county. It is for a total of $79,741. This is to pay Cox, Baker, Tilly, and the HB White bond payment.
Is this all just for one project, or is this multiple invoices?
This is the yearly amount that we have to pay.
Just-
the TIF. Basically, they pay into the account, and then we take it back out of the account and pay the payment for them.
Okay. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Major, a second by Mr. Dreer for the bond payment project payments, excuse me. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Appropriations approved. Alright, we have another from the sheriff's office. It is for $300 for unemployment. They're needing, I assume, to make up for the end of the year.
Is this something they're just short, Amy, or?
Yeah, I don't think it was budgeted. We budgeted other benefits, but I don't think the unemployment got budgeted when we set up to pay the people.
And this is for the deputies. We are taking out of that. It's in the certified shares account. The deputies who pay from there. Any other questions?
Motion to allow. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Donovan, a second by Mr. Bush to allow the $300 to the unemployment. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Appropriations approved. Alright, have we heard back from?
Yes, he said that, all overtime recently at the end of 28 days, sheriff, jail, and dispatchers, he said the same amount every year. They end up having to borrow about $5,000 from the next year, and it puts us behind, so they're gonna appropriate it this year, so they don't start out the year behind.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
Make a motion. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Donovan, second from Mr. Bush, to allow the appropriation for $5,500 for overtime. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Appropriations approved. That is the end of our additional appropriations. Alright, next, for open issues, we have the jail, and I believe we have a presentation today. I'm not sure who wants to start, but if you, whoever does talk today, if you'll please come up forward to the front and try to speak loud as you can, just because of the muffling. That way everyone online can hear you. Thank you, Jack.
Well, we're almost within a week of Christmas, so Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm done buying for my 7 grandchildren, so it's a big day for me. Tonight, Amy was nice enough to forward these 2 documents onto the council. These are the same 2 documents that the commissioners at the last commissioners meeting dealt with. And in essence, what they're doing is approving a potential budget, and we would hope to do the same thing tonight. From my point of view, I would consider it probably worst-case budget. With us tonight is Sanjay Patel, the architect, in case you have any questions for him. and probably more importantly, Baker Tilly's in the Austin, Jason Schemler and Andy Moser. They are the ones who formulated this document from Baker Tilly. So with that, I will turn it over to Jason and he can explain the funding. If there's any questions on the breakdown, I'm more than happy to answer those. Keep in mind that a lot of those numbers are estimates at this point. Hopefully they're worst case, but in order to keep you out of trouble, I've got to make sure that I've got enough in there that you're not going to get burned down the road. So, Jason?
Hey, Jack. Good evening. Jack, my name is Jason Simler. I'm a partner with Baker Tilly. And with me is Andy Mauser, and we've been in front of you. It's been about a year or so ago since we've been in front of you with some numbers. But I think Jack said you have a copy of the numbers we put together last month in November. Just updating, I think, what the council and commissioners have seen about a year ago with updated cost numbers. And I'll kind of go through those. And I would say, Jack says these are kind of worst case, and hopefully they are, but as we go, if you decide to go forward with this project, and we start talking about bonding and financing, and we start getting into legal documents, we actually put some more cushion in there, because when you start doing bond documents, you'll approve not to exceed amounts, as far as project size, bond size, annual payments. So even with those numbers, we usually put a little, some more cushion, so some contingencies in there. Because you just never know what's going to happen between now and if you decide to go forward with issuing bonds. Because they're looking at that time may not be till June or July. But based upon the best estimates that we have now, we put together these numbers that you have in front of you, and I'll kind of go through those with you. And if you have any questions as we go through the schedules, don't hesitate to stop me. I'd be happy to address them at that time. But page 2 looks at the project costs and funding, the total project costs. So if you look at the first number there, construction costs, about $16,982,000. With that, there's also some soft costs, architect fees, engineering fees, some other soft costs. Those total about $4.7 million. We do have some bond-related costs. If you decide to go forward with the bond issue to pay for this, there's usually an upfront fee that the bond purchaser requires. We call that an underwriter's discount or replacement fee. We've allowed up to 1%. That's, again, high. In today's market, it's usually less than that. But again, to be conservative, we put in 1%. So that's, again, 1% of the par amount of the bonds. So right now it's about $164,000. And then we put some bond issuance costs and contingencies of about $250,000. So based upon this budget, you're looking at a total project of $22,130,000. Now, as you know, this project has been discussed and talked about for quite some time. The county has accumulated some cash over the years that you've been talking about this. So if you kind of look at the project funding towards the bottom, as a couple months ago, working with Amy, there was about $4.2 million that you had saved up as of then. We estimated between, I think in October, between we thought we'd close on these bonds in May, that the county would accumulate another $1.5 million. So it's about $5.7 million of cash on hand that the county can contribute towards this project and wouldn't have to borrow as much. So based upon the $22 million total project, less the $5.7 million on hand, that leaves about $16,430,000 that would need to be borrowed from financing. Now, if we determine that the project, which is based upon Jack's estimates, the project may not be bid and start construction for a couple months later than what we're showing here. So if that is the case, then the county could accumulate more cash on hand, or if there's other, buckets of money that you have, we can add that to these numbers and just reduce the amount that the county has to borrow. But again, based upon this information scenario, looking at $5.7 million of cash that you contribute, and then borrow another $16.4 million. Any questions on the project cost numbers first before I go on? Okay. If not, the next schedule, again, for the amount remaining that you don't have cash, one of the recommendations is that you go out and borrow the money through a bond, which is very typical for a project of this size. Most communities don't have this type of cash on hand to fund, so they go out and borrow money. And that term can be anywhere from 10, 15, 20 years. Typically for a project like this, for a project that has a lifespan such as a jail, we often go out 20 years. So that's kind of what we've shown here, about a 19.5-year bond issue. And then you kind of look at the far right side. Those are the annual payments that you'd be required to pay, both principal and interest. So you can see the first year, you're only looking about $280,000, and the second year increases to about $566,000, then $850,000, then about $1,130,000. The reason it ramps up is because of during that construction period. We might be able to pay a little bit more principal earlier on, but it all depends upon construction and how quickly we can get the project done. But as you can see, once the project's fully completed, we're looking at the annual payment be $1,130,000. You can see the assumed interest rates there right now. I can tell you if we were to go out in the market today and sell these bonds, I believe you would get better interest rates than what we're showing here. And these rates are 0.8% to 3%, which, you know, historically those are historical lows, but based upon the bonds that are selling right now, I think we could even do better than this. So I think this is even conservative. But again, we're looking about 5-6 months out before we're actually ready to sell bonds. So we have some cushion in here for that. One thing that the may ask, again, we can do bonds earlier than this, shorter period than 20 years. But what we recommend whenever we're doing a 10, 15, 20-year bond is have a call date where you have the ability to either refinance the bonds or pay them off early. We typically structure that after 10 years. So even though we'd structure this bond payment for 20 years, and you'll know what your payment is for the next 20 years, we'd give the county the flexibility that you could pay them off or refinance them within 20 years. We could do that sooner than that 20 years. Sometimes 8 years, or usually when you get earlier than 8 years, you get to pay a premium, where purchasers say, yeah, you can pay them off earlier, but we're going to charge you a little bit higher interest rate. So we can look at that as we get closer. But wanted to let you know that this 20 years, you're not locked in for 20 years straight.
You said typically after 10 years?
Typically after 10 years. Sometimes, depending on the market, we can do 8 years without incurring an additional higher interest rate. And that's something we could look at as we get closer to that time. But definitely 10. So on the bonds, we're looking at something that we've talked about the last couple of years, is the bonds to be payable from local income tax, your public safety income tax, which the county has adopted and increased a couple years ago. But we're also recommending that you put a property tax backup behind these. And the reason for the property tax backup, if you remember when we talked about this a couple years ago, it's really for marketability. Because whoever buys these bonds, of course, they're going to make sure that they're going to get paid. Well, property taxes is the most secure revenue source that we have in Indiana. So I'm going to show you here that you have plenty enough revenue from your income tax to pay these bonds off, but recommend that you put that property tax back up on it, because whoever's buying these bonds know that if something happens with the income tax, especially in today's market with the economy, with COVID, and the uncertainty of future jobs, they know that the county would have to step in and put a property tax levy in place to cover that shortfall. But we're going to show you here in these next couple of slides that it would take a pretty big decrease in your income for that to ever happen. And that's what we're showing here on page 4. The estimated available revenues is $3,311,000. This is what you've been certified for 2021 for your certified shares and your public safety income tax. So those two revenue streams together will total $3,311,000. And that's already been certified for next year. Working with Amy, your budget out of these two funds is about $1.7 million. And then we also showed the decrease in the annual payment for the bonds. So you can see on your right side there the estimated available remaining. So again, the first 3 years have over $1 million left over. And once you start fully paying that full payment, you still have about $450,000 remaining each year after paying all your expenses in your 2021 budget.
Jason, have you guys accounted for increased operations costs to that jail?
No, and that's really what that $400,000 would be used for. That excess. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's one thing and that's one reason we kind of went out 20 years rather than 15 or something shorter, because you could pay for it. We're showing this here, but you have those additional costs that you'll probably incur, and then also the uncertainty with future income taxes. So that's what that additional surpluses.
Okay, Jack, do you guys have a number of the increased operation costs that the jail will incur after it's fully operational?
It's a little hard to say at this point, but typically the way I compute it now is I assume that the added square footage will be the operational cost increase. And the new square footage, I usually run at about $5 a square foot. I have a lot of office buildings, and that's usually what it costs us to keep them going. So you've already got the expense of the existing building. The key is what's the increase. I'm not quite sure what we're adding square footage wise.
I think we're adding around 30 to 40,000 square feet.
So it'd be about $150,000
Okay, so you guys are thinking about 150,000.
would come off of that.
Okay.
But also in the renovations, we would be making the systems more efficient, from lighting to HVAC to water usage. So there should be a decrease on that side. So we don't believe there's going to be a significant change in the operation.
Okay. Another thing that we just need to think about, are you guys anticipating in your budget expenditures, does that have our ambulance service out of that? Our payments to the fire departments? Do we have that built into that too?
That's in the, is that included in the budgeted expenditures already? From the budget?
It is?
Yeah.
All the increases?
So after we pay all it, we'll still have 400,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the last schedule, again, what we're recommending is you just legally pledge the public safety tax with the property tax backup. On the schedule that I just went over, I showed both the public safety tax and your certified shares. We're recommending that, again, you don't need to pledge both because you have plenty of coverage. If we just pledge your public safety, that's going to give the market a comfort, because we're showing here, if you just look at your public safety tax, which is $2.1 million, that alone is enough to cover your annual payment. Now, granted, there's some budget expenses that come out of that public safety tax, but you could do that over all the certified shares if you wanted to. But what we're showing here is that the public safety is sufficient to cover the annual payment, so you only need to pledge the public safety, and that gives you the flexibility that if you ever had another large project in the future and needed to pledge your certified shares, it gives you flexibility to do that. So this is just really only pledging one source legally. You have the availability to use either one, but it also gives you the availability to pledge your certified shares to something else in the future if you decide to. So this just shows, which is what we would go out in the market, is that your public safety of $2.1 million is enough to cover your bond payments and provide 180% coverage, which means that you have enough revenue coming in to cover your annual payment 1.8 times, so almost double, which is very strong. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
By pledging that income when the bonds are issued, does that mean we can't spend any of that money then? Because right now we currently have items budgeted out of public safety. Would we have to move those items to another?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to. You're just legally pledging, so it's, worst case scenario, and, your certified shares and your public safety both go down significantly, you're required to use your public safety.
Okay. And as for the public eye, when we say we're pledging money for out of the income taxes, that doesn't mean we're going to raise the taxes to pay for that.
Correct.
We're using the current we already have.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, everything that I'm showing you here now is what you're already generating. So you're not having to increase any new taxes than what you already have.
Jason, with your estimated available revenues, 3.3 million,
Mm-hmm.
do you guys anticipate that to decrease at all if the county loses an employer like Duke or International Paper, or we have the census comes back and we have a large loss of population? Do you guys think that that'll impact, or the COVID-19 recession, will that have any impacts? Large impacts?
Well, yes, if you were to lose a large employer, that would decrease this revenue. We do anticipate your 2022 income tax being less than your 2021. At the minimum, I'm thinking 3 or 4%.
Okay.
It could be less than that, and I'm thinking 3 or 4% statewide, and then I think it'll be less than that, or the decrease will be larger than that depending upon the county and how hard each county's been hit by unemployment.
But the reason why I say that is because Duke Energy has said that they're going to be decommissioning the generation station, I think in late 2020s or 2030s. So that's a big blow to
And that's why you want to
income.
have that strong coverage
Okay.
for very things like that.
Okay.
And that's why, even though we're showing that you could do a smaller bond issue than 20 years, maybe 15, for things like that, I feel more comfortable going out 20 years. If things, that doesn't happen, or you have a company that comes in and replaces that company, and
Mhm.
you continue generating money like you have in the past, then in 10 years, you can maybe pay them off early.
Okay.
It's kind of like, you can mortgage your house, and you can maybe want to refinance, and you can do 15 years, but you keep it at 30 just to give yourself flexibility.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing here.
Okay.
Maybe they know this already, and I'm just gonna ask it, I don't know. At the very beginning, you have the 0.80% interest on the assumed interest rate.
Yep.
How does it go from there, a steady incline up to 115 of 41 to 3%?
That's because typically for a bond issue this size, we'll shop this to local banks throughout the region, underwriters, and if an underwriter buys it, they'll sell these to different people. Sometimes it's large insurance companies that might buy the whole thing, sometimes it's banks, insurance companies. So it's kind of going back to your mortgage again. If you have a 15-year mortgage, the interest rate is lower than a 30-year mortgage. So the very first year, someone's keeping that bond for 6 months. They're willing to take on a very low interest rate, 0.8%, versus someone who's going to hold it for 10 years or 15 years because they're taking on more risk, so they're going to demand a higher interest rate. So that's why you see the interest rate gradually increasing over time.
Okay.
By putting the $5.7 million down as a down payment, basically, how much do you think that saves us in interest over the 20 years?
I don't have that right offhand, but it was a significant amount.
We're talking millions of interest, or?
Not millions, but
100,000?
hundreds of thousands over that 20-year period.
And over the 20 years, looks like we'll be paying about 1.3 interest over the life of this project.
4.3.
Or sorry, what did I say?
1.3.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, 4.3.
4.3, my bad.
Yeah. Again, if we were to sell these today, I think we could get a better rate than this. But we're looking 6 months out. So, but yeah, that based on this, you're correct. It'd be 4.3 million of interest. So that's one thing. If again, we did this assuming this was going to be closed in May. If we wait till June or July, depending on when you get bids, there may be a couple of extra 100,000, maybe more cash that we can contribute, and that's just going to reduce that interest you pay. That's something we can kind of look at as we get closer, because again, the more cash you put, the less we have to borrow. At the same time, we don't want to strap you for other projects and costs that you have.
Thank you, Jason. Does anyone else have questions?
For Jason or for the whole project?
For Jason right now. Anything else for Jason? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Okay. As far as the project goes, are there additional questions for Sanjay or Jack?
Yeah, I have a couple for Jack. Jack, I was in a lot of those meetings, well, about every one of the jail committee meetings. What's this water line extension for $250,000? I don't ever recall that being discussed in any of the meetings.
I'm sorry.
This water line extension for $250,000.
Apparently that was discovered at least by me 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. I was told by Mr. Yocum that we had to bring the water line down. Sandy may have a better handle on how this all evolved. But the HWC or HWI.
Right, HWC, yeah.
That's the fee they're charging, and the $250,000 is their estimate of what it'll take to bring the water line down to the jail.
We're bringing it over, is that it, from the rise, or is that?
That's correct. We're bringing in water from Rise because right now the water that's coming in needs to be treated and it's not sufficient for the project, so.
See, several years ago, I know we spent $300-some thousand. We split the cost,
with the rise and get that water over there, and it was supposed to be ready to go when we got it. So now we're gonna fund it, the taxpayers are funding that for them to correct their problem over there.
Well, the quantity of water that they were getting in was insufficient to support the start of the project, so now that we're defining the scope to use this additional water to be brought in, and there will be a separate line. The existing water would remain in place, the existing line. We'd be adding in a second line, one for the fire service and one for domestic water.
So you're replacing the service water?
We're adding another line to provide the domestic. The existing
Okay.
line would become the fire line.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what I was thinking.
Is there a valve in this that's gonna be hooked up to Hillsdale?
I'm not sure about the
I don't know
details of
yet.
this, yeah.
Talking with Eric Smith with HWC there, he said he had to do a study, and they're planning on putting a valve in. If Hillsdale needs water, they could switch a valve and send water to Hillsdale. That,
We can find out more from
We
Eric.
can
and
find
I
out more.
feel that.
yeah,
The valve in itself is somewhat incidental. It's where the water may go as a result of the
Right.
valve. It's
right.
not particularly incidental, so.
Some of the stuff, I'll just be honest, Jack, I don't quite understand. But like owner's rep for $280,000, who would that be?
That might be me.
Pardon?
It might be me, it might be somebody else when the time comes.
Okay,
It's that, the construction management fee, they're all estimates on my part.
for your
There's
part?
An escalation clause in there.
Mm-hmm.
Given that you guys have been at it for 6 years, I'm not sure I'd do anything with that because you may well need that before it's over. There's $1.5 million in design contingency.
Right.
Keep in mind that we just started the design, not just started, but
Well, don't we have 900,000 for architecture and engineering fees?
yes.
Okay, so what do we
That's a
need
firm
the,
number. Reasonably firm.
so what do we need the design contingency for? 1.5 million.
So he's not done designing it yet.
So the details that we add into the drawings as we go through the design process, the unknowns will start then taking some of that design contingency to become actual construction costs.
So your guys' total fees will be about 900,000 plus 1.5 million.
The 1.5 is applied to the construction value, which is caused because of changes in design as they go. It's not more fees for Sanjay.
Yeah, but if we're paying you 900,000, we would expect that those drawings would be complete. You're saying the design contingency, that's for after it's already bid out, correct?
No.
And if there's a change in scope, that's normally what a contingency is.
So the estimate that we have for construction costs, the 1.5 takes into consideration the design that is not complete today, but will be complete 3 months from now. So during that time period, there will be more layers of detail added to the drawings, and the construction cost that might increase during that time period is part of that 1.5. So it's not fee that comes to us, it's just added to the construction cost as we add more layers of detail to the drawings.
Sanjay will be drawing for the next 5 months roughly, taking us through May. Along the way, as he finishes each phase of the drawings, there'll be an estimate redone, because each time, obviously, we want to get a handle on construction costs. If, for example, it's discovered that there are certain things that wasn't anticipated in the first estimate, it will be drawn from that and put up into the construction value. If there isn't, then that line item goes away, or at least a portion of it is not used.
So as you progress your design, that 1.5 starts getting lesser and lesser.
Yeah.
Until you come to pretty much the end of design, when you receive bids, you'll have the exact cost of the project.
I guess I was just under the impression how much have we paid for already for systemic design?
So we have 82.5 that was approved for the second phase of schematic design.
Okay. I guess I was under the impression that you guys had a good idea of what it takes to get a full set of drawings. For this owner rep and construction manager, do the commissioners know how they're going to bid this out? Or they're going to have an owner's rep and a construction manager? Are we going to have RQAW take care of this? Is the general contractor going to take care of this?
John, I believe that's going to be a discussion held at a later date in January, but I believe the commissioners have finally got something in front of us here that they're asking us to pass, and I would like the other council members to consider that as well. But I don't think any decision has been made about who's going to be an owner's rep or who's gonna be a construction manager at this point,
Okay.
or at least from the discussions that I've had.
You know, the commissioners may well decide to bid it out to general contractors. If they do.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
however,
that's why I was just curious of, we have these costs in here, so we're just trying to give everybody options. The maximum
This is the
amount.
worst case scenario where you've added all the extras in just in case, correct?
I think we've
Depending
approached
on
it
which
much
way.
like Jason has financially. We're making darn sure you're gonna fall within those windows.
Okay.
And
You'll
then.
notice that there's not only a design contingency, there's a construction contingency there as well.
Mm-hmm.
That'll stay in place.
General conditions. Whose general conditions are there?
Contractors.
Well, shouldn't that already be
If it's-
accounted for in the general
If it's-
construction cost of 16.2 million?
If it goes as a general contractor, well, if it goes as a CM, we'll have those separate line for it.
Okay. I would assume if the general contractor had it, they would already
If
assume
you bid
those
that
general
to a
conditions, and that would be under
contractor-
general construction.
If you bid that by using a general contractor, both those line items will go up into the construction value. The 400 and the 600 both.
Okay.
So you're just shifting numbers around in essence.
Geotech survey and soils test. Does that seem kind of high? 15,000, 25,000?
No, the geotech services that were approved by the commissioners last week was, I think, $6,000. That's to get the soil borings and stuff like that, figure out
Okay.
what the bearing capacities are. The survey was actually done earlier by RQAW, and we have not requested any monies for that. We just wanted to get the project going, so we paid that cost.
Okay.
Jack, on that construction management, that won't be anybody that's actually affiliated with RQAW, is that correct? Because I've heard
Well, it
rumors that,
shouldn't be, but-
pardon?
It could be, but it shouldn't be.
It should be, you're correct.
Mhm.
But I've heard rumors that it might be, that's why I was asking.
I mean,
That's okay.
we could, I mean, they
It's not
could,
my decision, to be honest with you.
they could have them sort of as the construction manager. That's a service you guys provide, correct?
It would not be construction management as such, it would be more of an owner's rep.
Okay.
We have a sister company that does that kind of service. Again, since the decision's not been made about what the delivery process and method would be, that's part of the discussion.
Okay.
Now, several months from now, we'll probably be in a position to come back with new numbers, new estimates, new breakdown of soft and hard costs and what have you, because it's an ever evolving dynamic thing. And as we approach the selling of the bonds and bidding, if Sanjay is done in May, it will take about 6 more weeks to get the documents ready for bidding if it's a CM, and then bid. Then they have to be sort of debugged, if you will, before they're presented to the commissioners. So it could very easily be 2 months after he's done with the drawing before you stand in front of the commissioners asking for an award of the bids.
Mm-hmm.
So these soft costs, Jack, are you saying that some of these are escalated kind of high, estimated kind of high, but we're going to come in under those surely?
Absolutely.
That's the goal, yes.
That's the goal. How much I don't
'Cause, you know,
wanna say,
sometimes
but
you-
I can almost guarantee it'll be below those numbers.
Okay. Well, you know how that is when you put money out, sometimes they just want to use it up.
Well, that's true. On the other side of the coin, I want to come to you guys in 6 weeks and say, well, surprise, we're
Yeah.
going up.
Okay.
I'd much rather-
Because I know this thing originally, you know, when we first started kicking this can around about the jail, there was a figure came in at like 22 point some $1 million and was going to get a new facility.
Mhm.
And they kicked it around so long, the commission not agreeing what to do. Now we're at damn near that same figure. That what
Yeah.
we could, and we're only putting, how many beds in, 50 or so? I'm not sure exactly the number on
We're
it.
adding 54.
So it's about half of what we were gonna have.
So what will be the total capacity? What's
83 plus 64, that will be a total capacity.
How much?
83 plus 64. 47.
And is this pod system, the pre-engineered metal building that's gonna house the pod system, is that gonna be fully built out?
Yes.
It will be fully built out. Okay. Jack, I have a couple questions on your breakout. Special construction, security, and surveillance, 5.7 million. I'm assuming that's included your pre-engineered cells and,
Door controls,
okay.
generally anything security nature.
Okay. The only thing I'd say, I'd just like to see that a little more broken out.
Yeah, it's a big number, but it's a big chunk of what to do in a jail.
Let's see. Under renovations, we have equipment including food service.
Okay.
Equipment including food service, $400,033.300.
Yeah, now that's a number undefined at this point. You know,
Okay.
we have to buy new kitchen equipment in order to cover the expanded kitchen.
Okay, well, I was just kind of confused because we have that under renovations, and then we have kitchen and laundry addition. Then we have equipment including food service and laundry, $267,000.
Depends, I'd have to look at the breakdown of those and what's intended in each. But right off the top of my head, I can't tell you the distinction, but believe me, there's a distinction. We're not-
Okay. Under renovations, we have special construction, security and surveillance, $758,000 roughly. What's all that entail? Is that just new door locks,
Door locks,
controls?
controls,
Okay,
cameras.
okay. Like I said, if we could get that
hardware,
broken down a little bit more,
security glass,
it'd be good enough.
ceilings.
How much square footage are we adding for the administrative area?
5.
Did we run up with me? Yeah, 7,363 feet.
That's what we're adding?
Adding.
Adding 7,363. What do we have currently?
Not sure.
I think it's short of 5 or something.
5,000 square feet? Okay. This Sallyport. Weren't we originally going to tear that down and then build new? Is that still the plan, or
That is
are
the
you?
plan, that's the addition, replacing the existing Sally Port that's going to be torn down and replacing the Sally Port.
Says construction hard cost only 140,000. It seems a little light for a new Sallyport.
It's basically just a shell, it's just.
Oh, okay.
Just the roof and the perimeter walls, there's nothing inside except overhead doors.
Okay. And what's your total cost per square footage for this renovation and addition? Do you guys have that number?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know at the end of the day, we're going to end up, if my number's correct, just shy of 46,000 feet.
46,000 in addition and renovation,
Mm-hmm.
and we're looking at a total construction cost about 18 million.
Yes, depending on which side of that contingency and design contingency you move the ball. If you take the 45 into the 16, obviously it's one number, and 45 into the 18, it's an entirely different number. I think it's safe to say it'll fall somewhere between the two.
So about $391 a square foot.
Sounds believable. We're getting ready to bid one, it's gonna be $450.
And where's that at?
With Jefferson.
Okay.
So the request this evening is for asking us to set a budget amount for them to work with. Currently, the budget request is at $22,130,000.
So the commissioners are asking us to set that budget?
Correct. That way they can proceed with the numbers and figure out if they're able to bid it for that.
Okay, so we need a motion for
Yeah,
that?
this is a budget request only. It is not a guarantee that we actually spend it.
I'd just like to say one more thing, that Fountain County, how much was that new jail built for, and how many cells does that hold? Do you guys know that?
I do, but not with me. It's,
About 15 million new,
yeah, but.
and then about, what, 130 cells?
It was less cells resulting than you'll have, but I don't remember the number exactly. That has been bid within the year, but anything within 6 months, boy, it makes a big difference. As I told you guys 3 years ago, we were building for 284 bucks a foot. Now we're at 450 and climbing. So it gives you a sense of what you could have had if you'd done it a while back.
Yeah, to me, this cost seems a bit high. I think we'd be better off building a new jail, but that's just my personal opinion. If it is needed, which I don't believe it's needed. Actually, Bruce, you know how many people are in jail today? What the jail?
62.
62, and what's our capacity? 83. Okay.
72. 72 is capacity.
Then they just say it was 83.
I know it was 83.
Huh?
Oh,
Do-
it was 83.
82?
83. If you count the intake and booking cells and things like that.
How many did you say? 63?
I think it's 62.
62.
There's some DOC guys in there.
So you got 9 left.
Okay.
You got 9 left. So you got.
Well, I'd just like to say that I know I've sat on this council for 2 years, and I know this jail project's been kicked down the road, like Randy said, for what, 5 years now? So, I mean, I think the commissioners have finally come to a decision. I mean, we can't predict how many inmates are gonna be out there at that jail. With that, I'd like to make a motion to set the budget at $22.13 million per the commissioner's request.
Made a motion to, what's the budget?
What they asked for, $22.13 million.
And the new jail capacity is going to be 147.
motion on the floor.
I got a motion.
Oh,
Okay, you
sorry.
need a second, or after that you can ask a question
Okay.
again. Is there a second to Mr. Donovan's motion?
I'll second Mr. Donovan's motion.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Donovan and a second, Mr. Costello, to set a budget of $22,130,000 for the jail project. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Sanjay, could you just repeat how many new cells that'll be? 174?
64 new beds that will be added to the pod.
Okay. We're currently have 62 people in jail, and we're going to add 64 to that. That's all I got to say.
This is from the request of the commissioners for their budget on their jail project. I would advise that further questions be referred to the commissioners on the need for the jail. We are setting the budget. So I have a motion by Mr. Donovan, a second from Mr. Costello.
Can we do a roll call?
We can.
Thank you.
We can do a roll call vote. Mr. Costello,
Yes, aye.
Mr. Donovan,
Aye.
Spence, Mr. Spence.
I'm gonna say this. I've always found that if you set a budget at this $22.13 million, if you leave that to them, I don't care how much money we save during construction, they're going to spend that money. And I think there should be something there that we can say, this is a limited amount of money to spend, and you're going to have to live with that amount of money. That's all there is to it. Make it work. And I've heard a lot of different avenues as far as the cost and the finance and everything like that. And I'm just throwing out my own opinion, but I'd like to see us put a cap on it and say, that's it. Build
Well,
it
this
for
one,
that.
we can't come back to you for any more money.
I'm sorry, Jack, I can't hear
We
you.
can't spend over that without coming back to you again to approve more money, but I can't imagine that happening, not with this budget.
I understand, but if we come in at a lower cost and we're just about done with construction and there's X amount of dollars left over.
Let me explain how this will work. Well, on the day Sanjay gives us the drawings and we get them ready for bid, we put out the bid. 4 weeks later, the bids will come in, we'll read them in this room, and we'll tally them all up, and everybody will be a party to that amount. That amount will be the amount that is currently shown at the top of my list, or a variation of that number. At that point, that number will then generate the numbers below in the soft costs going down the line, in a lot of cases. That will all be locked and firm at that point, along with the contingencies that we will approve through the commissioners. Then construction starts. I've been doing this a long time, guys. It's 40 years plus in jails, and I've never seen a budget, the money be spent over what the budget provides for. So you won't lose it in the construction, you'll lose it at the bidding, if anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Your vote,
I'm still thinking about it. Go ahead.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Well, I think everybody knows how I'm going to vote. I think the process of doing this was flawed. In the middle of a recession, a pandemic, possible losing out to employers, and tough times for the taxpayers of Vermillion County, and a jail that won't be paid off till the 2040s, I just think is a ridiculous cost, and I'll vote no on this.
okay. Mr. Drew,
No.
Mr. Spence.
Yes.
You're abstaining, Ashley?
My vote doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I mean, we have 4 votes for a yes, so the motion is carried. The current jail budget will be set at $22,130,000. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Kevin.
If you had to vote, Ash, how would you vote? If you had to vote, how would you vote?
We'll make a little meeting go on.
Do I?
All right, we're going to move on so we can get done. Next, we have the 2021 salary ordinance. We have decided to keep all offices that are non-elected positions the same for now until the salary study is completed. So tonight, we must set the elected official salaries. Those have to be done before the end of the year for state guidelines.
I think the elected official salaries should be the same as the previous year.
Everyone received the emails with the information from the salary study company. And then the additional one that was printed today includes the surveyors, because the surveyor total originally included part-time and full-time in the average. Our surveyor is considered part-time, so those numbers are broken down for you separate for the part-time only.
Would you like for me to make a motion?
Is there further discussion first? Anyone have questions on it?
Does the part-time surveyor's position include insurance, health insurance?
They are eligible for, can receive benefits. I mean, that's their salary number, that's not including any benefits.
But are they receiving?
Are they
Randy,
receiving?
do you know?
Do what, Bob? I
Are
can't.
are they receiving, health insurance with the surveyors?
Are they? Correct. But I don't think that is entered into the salary ordinance, is it?
No. This is just their base salary amount. None of the benefits have been calculated into any of these amounts.
I'd like to make a motion to keep the elected officials' salaries the same as 2020. And then the salary ordinance will take care of everybody else. Is that correct, Ashley?
If that is carried through, yes.
Okay.
I have a motion on the floor from Mr. Mader to keep the elected officials at their current pay for the 2020 pay for the next year of 2021. Is there a second to the motion? Any seconds?
No,
Okay.
I just had a question if I could.
Well,
I know, I was just waiting
yeah.
whenever this.
Okay, last time, is there a second? All right, due to a lack of second, that motion will die. RJ, do you have questions now?
Yeah, so, I know you're working with that salary study company. Is there any idea if they indicated if those numbers are gonna come back more for some of those first deputies, second deputies?
We don't have that right now because they're just getting the information from each office still.
Mhm.
So we have no information on regarding first deputies or anyone else.
Because I know, like, let's say some of those first deputies come back, they need $2,000-3,000 increase. I know it's gonna be up to the council to decide that, but, I mean, my concern is if you don't raise some of these elected officials, some of those first deputies are gonna be right at that elected official.
That is possible.
And, I mean, some of these, when you compare them to, like, Warren County, I know they've got, 6,000-7,000 population less than us, and they're quite a bit higher, on a lot of these, so, I don't know. What would everybody's thoughts be on maybe $1,000 increase for all the elected officials? I mean, or at least the assessor, the auditor, the clerk.
Personally, I'd rather go with some of the averages that we have. I mean, that was the whole point of instead of doing a set amount. For
Or
each
do the
of them.
average at the bottom across?
These are the numbers that they gave us because the state stipulates the job descriptions. So for these positions, we will not receive the new job descriptions from the salary study. Everyone else in the county will get a detailed job description, and it will go through their task and identify them and rate them for salaries. That is not done for these state mandated positions, so we just have rough numbers on these.
So you would rather go with like the average amount?
Yes, because if you look, each position is not necessarily paid the same. There is a small fluctuation.
So on the sum, like, for instance, on a couple of them, if it's lower than, if ours is higher than the average, then we're not gonna take that.
We told everyone at the
We would
beginning of
not
the salary
lower.
study would not lower.
Okay.
Hey, Ash, can I just peek at that? I don't have that paper. Can I just peek at it?
Did it? Oh, sorry, I thought there was one.
Maybe it's right here, wait. I'm sorry, I do have it.
That's okay.
Actually, as you caught about the coroner,
Yes.
the coroner, because he is gonna be a physician, should be paid 1.5 times what the former coroner was being paid. I don't know if we've ever had a doctor who was the coroner
Yeah,
last
I know.
time. He did, but that's by state statute, so we might wanna make a notation in the salary ordinance, whatever you set the coroner's salary at, if you leave it at what it is, he will actually be paid 1.5 times that
Okay.
amount.
Since
So-
he's not currently in office right now, do we need to set that or come back in January and once he's been sworn in?
I would go ahead and do it now, because technically you're not supposed to change the salary ordinance anyway. I mean, I guess you could imply that he would get 1.5 times that amount regardless, if you just had an amount in. I just think there should be a notation and just know as a body that he will actually get 1.5 times that amount. So when you go to make any adjustments to that position, know that it's already gonna be adjusted regardless, because he's the position.
So what is everyone else's thoughts on the average salary, making that an increase for the elected officials from the study?
Would that mean the council gets cut in half?
Well, like Ashley stated, when they started this, no one would be cut if it was lower. At least that's what was said in the beginning.
I don't think it should be raised.
No, I think that was.
They
the
knew
average.
what they were getting into, and they knew what the salary was when they ran
I-
for the position.
I mean, I guess, I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
I guess the purpose of the salary study was to see where we are. And it appears that more or less we are close to where the averages fall. So it doesn't, the study doesn't necessarily mean that we have to give raises or lower salaries to meet the average. The average is just the average. So if we give raises just to match the average, that's just saying we're going to be average. We're going to meet the average.
And
So we don't have to, I mean, we could be below average, we could be above average. That's up to us. This guides us into saying what kind of raise or not do we want to give these particular individual offices. So we could, like Councilman Major stated, you know, do nothing, or I'm sorry, not do nothing, but choose not to give raises, or we could do exactly what the averages are, or go above that. But I mean, in my opinion, that's kind of what we're looking at here. Is the study indicates to us where we are, and if we're happy where you're at, and you want to save money, then you wouldn't say you wouldn't give raises to those positions. If you felt like some particular office was way high or way low, you could choose individual ones and leave others the same. So I guess that's maybe, you know, where we don't have to go across the board on average. That's my take on it. But by the same token, I guess each year the commissioners and the councils of previous decades and years ago would give 500 a year, 1,000 a year, just, I guess, and as it turns out, that happened to put all these salaries
Right there in
line with, real close to what small counties, even some mid-sized counties with much larger populations were still there. If you look, if we only include counties that are our size, there's a slight increase in a few, a couple decreases, but mostly slight increases. If you bump that up to the next average salary line and include larger counties, that average even goes down. So we're, you know, maybe above, I guess maybe we're above average for, you know, sort of where we, well, not above average, but we're doing pretty good when you consider if you add all the other larger counties in, the increase in salary would be less. So we're not the lowest, we're not the highest. You know, like I say, we are pretty close to the averages.
Repeat your motion, what was it?
I was just asking if, you know, Ashley had said she'd, you know, looked at the average salary, you know, increasing it, but are we looking at the average salary of just the yellow counties where they're just comparable to our size?
On your chart, yeah, the yellow is like those are the counties that are in population.
Well, I mean the increase, like for the average salary, because there's multiple breakdowns.
Yeah, yellow only would be just comparing the yellow
Yeah,
only.
that's what I mean. You're looking at like I mean, for some of them it's just a
Yeah,
$300 increase.
We're about 300 below average on a couple of them. The auditors we're under, and it's probably the biggest. One of the rest of them are within 300, 500 to 1,000 for the counties our size.
Coroner is
There's a few outliers, yeah.
high, council is high, commissioners are high. Sorry there, RJ.
You can cut it. I'd do it for less.
Okay.
You can at this point.
So some are high, some are low.
Yeah.
And the ones that are low are not that low. I mean, I you know, I say that relatively speaking. It's and numbers wise, to someone who earns a salary, it may be a lot, $1,000 a year is a lot, so.
I'd just like to see, people like the auditor, the clerks, the assessor, some of these offices get some type of raise. I'm not sure what everyone else wants to do.
By the same token, being an election year, people, they ran for an office that was at a X dollars a year, and they're gonna automatically get a raise without ever having served a day in office. I don't, so there's that side of the coin as well.
Okay, I will go by each office.
Is the sheriff's salary negotiated through contract?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't necessarily need to look at that. I mean, we don't need to look at it based on this study because it's
No, his
high.
is,
Well, yeah, it's the highest of all three average for county size.
yeah, he's within the averages of all the three categories. If you put Vigo County in there, that kind of skews the number because Vigo County
Sure.
gets double what almost we do, but
Sure.
so it kind of skewed that number, but he's still within the average right now. Okay, well, I will go by each office. We will have a recommendation for each office, and then we will vote on the salary ordinance together.
Now, did that take into account their other certifications and other boards that they get paid for?
The extra stuff that they get paid for, like if they do, like the
Like
extra
level
meeting-
2, level 3 certification for the assessor?
So anything they get paid for extra was taken out of their base salary.
Okay.
So like the clerk also gets money for election stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is not figured in this number.
Okay.
So there is money on top of this that they receive for doing additional duties.
Okay, and that was taken out of the other counties too?
Correct.
Okay.
So,
I mean, should we just wait till we get that report back? I mean, they got a longevity pay, which most of them got a significant raise with that longevity pay.
well, we can't change the elected officials after December 31st.
Pardon me, I couldn't hear
We
that.
can't change the elected officials after December 31st.
Right.
So like they said, there is that possibility that their first deputy comes back and they are making more money than the elected official, so.
That's assuming you alter a
Yes,
salary ordinance
that is-
to,
we could
you could always
ultimately
wait
leave it all
and
the
say,
same,
okay,
but-
we're gonna catch it up next year, so the first deputy is not making more than the elected official,
Right.
so.
So like, along those lines, like in the auditor's section, say it's 39,693, we leave it the same, then the first deputy is currently at 35,388, so roughly $4,000 less. And if the salary study comes in for individual employees and they get a $2,000 increase and we decide that, then they're that much closer. You would be having first deputies that are at the same, but we just, I mean, there's really no, I mean, it's like a roll, the dice. I don't know what the results are gonna be of this new thing, and it's possible for a year that could be the case, and then you'd, like you say, address it
Just address
in
it
the next
next
year,
year,
next
and then-
September, you'd have to address that, and then the office would have to make the case, and say, well, we're not gonna give raises, maybe they won't wanna give raises to their employees, or they won't recommend it or something, I don't know, but I think that, I mean, personally, I am more looking, my initial thoughts about the salary study back when I first, I guess, mentioned it, wasn't necessarily elected official pay. I was more concerned about the employee and whether they were getting fair pay and whether we were making good decisions on it. And then this is kind of a whole different issue here with the elected officials. So I guess we'll go down them one by one and look.
Okay. Currently, the assessor is at 39,949. I mean, the average salary for counties our size, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other counties that compared. The average was $40,251, so we're within $300.
Would it make sense to assume that since we're so close on these averages for the office holder, that the numbers we get from the company for first, second, third deputies, et cetera, should be lower by the same token, right?
I mean, it could be.
I don't know if other, and that's the wild card, we don't know, but I mean, I would say that I can't imagine other counties having all their.
The problem with comparing like our first deputy to another county's first deputy, they might do different things, because those job descriptions aren't mandated by the state, whereas the elected official is a specific job duty across the board. That's why these can be compared more easily to county than the other ones, because the other ones have to be broken down by their job task to compare them. So that's why we have this number that doesn't have necessarily a lot of detail about their job, is because it's supposedly supposed to be the same across the state.
And there's always the possibility, I guess it's not unheard of or wrong that a deputy in any office would get paid more than an elected official or an appointed manager of that office. You could have, say, if you had like where I work, you have an engineering department, and you could have a deputy engineer or something that's worked there for 30 years and has worked his way up the pay scale, and then there's a new starting salary for the department head that could be $20,000 less. And that's where it's at, that's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unusual, you don't always have the department heads making more or the elected officials making more than employees. It depends on their longevity, their years of service, who knows?
And the longevity was something we asked the company to review to make sure that it was adequate for years of service based on other counties. So there again, we don't have that number for longevity yet.
When do they anticipate having that all done, actually, though?
They originally from the start they said it could take 7 months, but they said it could be quicker. It could be, somewhere. Right now, I know several offices have been quarantined, so getting everyone's information back has been hit and miss too.
So probably mid and late next year then.
Spring, maybe early summer.
Yeah.
Okay, for the assessor. Do I have any suggestions for current pay?
At the minimum, I'd like to see him brought up to the average salary. I know some of them's only gonna be a $300-400 increase, but that'd be mine.
Of the yellow counties?
Yeah.
The same
Same
population
comparable
size?
size, yep.
Even for people who are just newly elected?
Well, for my thought on that is, the job descriptions don't change for them, they still have to do the same job duties as the past ones.
Okay.
So that'd be my recommendation if anybody else has got any other ones.
So $40,250. You want to leave the $1 in there, or round them off?
It's up to you guys.
We'll round them to the nearest 10. So the assessor would be $40,250. Auditor, from that same standard of counties our size, would be $42,400. Any objections to that one? The clerk would be $40,500.
Give me that auditor again, huh?
Auditor, $42,400.
It's right here, Randy.
Or do you want to?
Okay.
I guess it'd be 460. So the clerk at 40,460. And then to the tens. Commissioner, coroner, council, those will not be affected.
Could you read off what the averages are supposed to be?
Commissioner's average is 16,205, coroner is 9,119, and council is 5,331.
Could you tell me what the current salaries are now?
Current salary for commissioner is 20,437. Coroner is 15,041, which will end up being $22,562, because we'll have to pay him 1.5 times. and council is 9,150. The recorder, the current salary is 39,639. I'm sorry, 693. And then the average salary for counties our size would be 39,920. The sheriff will not change. The surveyor, that is the subset down here. The previous numbers included part-time and full-time, so it does not look like the surveyor will change. And then the treasurer is currently 39,693, so it'll be brought up to 40,970. So those are the averages that are comparable to our county size. That is populations up to 20,000.
Ashley, you said the surveyor won't change. What is it?
Oh, sorry. The surveyor will be at 17,763. So, those numbers include all counties, up to 20,000 in population. Our population in 2019 was estimated to be 15,498, which was down from the 2010 census of 16,212. So, all right.
What was the clerk again?
The clerk would be 40,460. Okay. Would anybody like to change any of those amounts? Okay. Then we will need to vote on those numbers as being numbers we'd like to put into the salary ordinance.
Can we do that as a roll call vote?
Can?
Thank you.
Well, first I need a motion. So we'll make a motion to accept the salary ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
RJ, oh, anybody need a second?
Then I need a second. Do we have a second to accept the salary ordinance
will.
amount? I did die. Who did I hear?
I will.
Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Donovan, a second from Mr. Bush, to accept the elected official salaries for the salary ordinance, along with all the other positions remaining the same until the salary study is complete. All right, Mr. Costello?
I'm gonna vote no.
Okay, Mr. Donovan?
Aye.
Mr. Spence?
Aye.
Mr. Bush?
Aye.
Mr. Major?
No.
And Mr. Dreer?
Aye.
Okay. The salary ordinance is approved. All right, we have the 2021 meeting schedule. The budget hearing has not been put on the schedule yet. It is something we can add once the new members of the council are here, since it is a multi-day process. These are for the regular meetings.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Vermillion County Council 2021 meeting schedule.
I'll second that, Ashley.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Major, a second by Mr. Dreer to accept the 2021 meeting schedule. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. The schedule is approved. And last, we have Clinton Library Board of Trustees reappointments. There are 2 reappointments to the board. We have Susie Pierce. Her term ended October 31st, and she has expressed an interest in renewing her appointment. We do make the appointment, approve the appointment for them. So I we'll need a motion and second.
Do them individually or together?
I'll do them individually.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve, let's see, Susie Price, or Pierce, I should say, Susie Pierce's term for the Clinton Library Board.
I second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Donovan and a second by Mr. Dreer to approve Susie Pierce for reappointment onto the Clinton Library Board of Trustees. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. All right, Susie is reappointed. And then next we have William Weber, who is also currently serving on the Clinton Library Board. He has expressed interest in renewing his appointment.
Motion to allow.
Second.
So you said second.
RJ.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Bush, a second by Mr. Donovan, to reappoint William Weber to the Clinton Library Board of Trustees. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Mr. Weber is reappointed.
We do an alcohol and beverage board, or?
The remaining appointments that we have will be done in January. There's currently an online form they can fill out if you would like to be appointed to a board. The remaining appointments will be done at the January meeting, once we have all the applications. So, that is all we have left on our schedule. But personally, I would like to thank Bob and John Michael for your service to the council. It's been a pleasure to serve with you guys, and you guys will be missed. And I'd like to wish everyone a safe and happy and healthy holidays. Is there any other public comment?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Have a second?
Second.
Alright. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ashley didn't thank me for my time, but it's okay.
Well, I'm sorry, RJ, yes.